Take a moment right now, just a quiet moment, and maybe consider this. Where do your words need to shift? From reaction to intention, perhaps.
Yeah.
From criticism
Yeah.
to encouragement. It's a question that it really cuts deep, doesn't it? We often we utter words without really thinking, letting them spill out, driven by impulse maybe, or just the situation. Yet the profound truth is what we choose to say, or even what we just allow ourselves to say.
Yeah.
It shapes far more than we can possibly imagine. There's this huge, often underestimated force woven into, every single word we speak.
Indeed. And that's not just, a simple question to think about briefly. It's really an invitation to step into a fundamental truth about how we express ourselves as humans. It's a truth that wisdom traditions for centuries, millennia even, have recognized and taught. The words we choose, or maybe even the ones that just slip out impulsively, they carry a weight we seldom fully grasp. They don't just affect the people who hear them, they ripple out. They affect our own inner world, the whole atmosphere around us, even the path our lives take.
And that brings us right to an ancient but incredibly relevant principle, something that's echoed down the ages. It's about the profound, almost, mystical power of the tongue. There's this timeless truth that says the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Just pause with that for a second. The very thing we use every day to talk, this small part of us, it holds such immense potential to create or to destroy. It really implies our words are, they're anything but neutral.
That's a crucial point, exactly. What's really fascinating here is how that ancient wisdom describes our words. It says they're a direct reflection of, quote, the state of our hearts. So speech is never just inert sound. It's not passive. It's a potent force, a dynamic energy. Words, whether we speak them aloud or even just think them, they can do tremendous good or, frankly, significant harm. Think about it. They can build people up, offer comfort, heal deep wounds, ignite courage, or they can tear down, stir up division, inflict pain, foster despair. Our speech, really, it becomes a mirror, reflecting our inner world, but also shaping the very environment we live in, individually and, together.
So when we talk about words of life and death, are we just talking about the really obvious things like, nasty insults versus glowing compliments? Or is there maybe a more subtle way, maybe even kind of insidious, that our words can harm or build without us quite realizing it? It sounds like a deeper responsibility than just, say, avoiding arguments.
That's a really important distinction. And yes, the deeper wisdom suggests it's often the subtle stuff, the consistent flow of language, not just the big declarations, that truly builds or breaks down. Think about concepts like, what some people call microaggressions. These subtle, often unintentional, verbal sort of jabs, they seem small, but they add up over time. They create this atmosphere of dismissal or feeling invalidated. They chip away at someone's spirit. But then, conversely, there's the idea of micro-affirmations, small, consistent verbal cues. Recognizing someone, valuing them, encouraging them, like a steady drip of life-giving water, right? These seemingly minor things can profoundly shape how someone sees themselves, foster resilience. So yes, the power of life and death is absolutely in the obvious things, but maybe even more powerfully in the quiet, consistent stream of language we use every single day. Our words, they're not just communicating outwards, they're building things internally.
Wow, okay. And if that isn't enough to make you really pause and think deeply about your daily chats, consider this metaphor. It's even more compelling, I think. It completely reframes communication. Words are never just words, they're seeds. Just let that image settle in your mind for a moment. A seed. If every single word you say, every phrase, every thought you actually give voice to, if it's a seed, what did that imply? About the lasting impact. Makes you picture a harvest, right? A consequence that develops over time.
Exactly. If we really lean into this metaphor, it means our daily communication isn't just fleeting. It doesn't just vanish once the sound fades. No, it's an act of planting. We are, quite literally, planting a garden. For our future, for our relationships, for our own inner world. Just like a physical seed, you put it in the ground and it has the whole blueprint inside it for something real, a flower, a tree, food. Our words, once spoken, they have this inherent power. They carry consequences that grow and show up over time. They have this incredible ability to shape circumstances, to influence how people see things, and to literally manifest into real-life outcomes. Whether those are outcomes we want or outcomes we, frankly, dread. This idea really highlights that our words are foundational. They're the building blocks for what we experience, what we attract, and ultimately what we create in our lives and, importantly, in the lives of people around us.
Okay, so if words are seeds, how does that actually work? How does a spoken word, which feels kind of abstract, really turn into something tangible? What's the mechanism there?
Well, it's not quite magic, but it is certainly profound. When we say words are seeds, we're tapping into things that cognitive science understands quite well. For instance, there's this phenomenon called priming in psychology. It suggests that the words we hear or speak, even subconsciously, can literally prime our brains, get them ready for certain thoughts, emotions, or actions. So if you're constantly talking about scarcity, saying there's not enough, your mind gets primed to see scarcity everywhere. But if you speak words of abundance, of possibility, your mind becomes more attuned to opportunities. It starts looking for them. And similarly, think about framing effects, how just slightly different word choices, maybe in describing a situation, can drastically change how we understand it and react to it. Our words don't just describe reality, they actually take part in constructing it. They plant ideas, emotions, expectations, and then those things start to grow. They bear fruit through our actions, our perceptions, the energy we put out there. So consistency in our verbal patterns, that becomes really key to the kind of harvest we end up reaping.
And we see this playing out, right? Not just in theory, but in real life, in ways that are genuinely inspiring, sometimes surprising. Think about that example, that Ohio middle school teacher back in 2023. She started this incredible practice. Every single class, she began with just 30 seconds of affirmations. She would tell her students consistently, every day, you are seen, you are capable, you are valuable. Imagine hearing that every single day as a young person trying to figure things out. The impact.
And the results, they were truly remarkable, just a testament to the power of consistent, intentional speech. Over time, classroom disruptions, they decreased noticeably. It was almost like a new, more peaceful atmosphere just grew there. And maybe more importantly, student confidence just soared. You could see it. And the teacher herself, she had this profound realization from doing this. She said, I realized I wasn't just teaching math, I was speaking identity. That just perfectly illustrates it, doesn't it? How words, when chosen with purpose, spoken with belief, delivered with care, they can affirm and profoundly shape a person's sense of self, their inherent worth, even their potential. It goes way beyond just surface-level stuff. It touches the core of who they believe they are.
It makes you wonder, though, what exactly is the mechanism? How did just saying these words, these affirmations, actually change student behavior and their sense of who they were?
Well, it seems to work on multiple levels. Firstly, there's something called the Pygmalion effect. It's a well-known psychological concept. Basically, higher expectations lead to better performance. So when a teacher consistently verbalizes belief in a student's ability, it subtly but powerfully shifts things. It shifts the teacher's own behavior towards that student, and it shifts the student's self-perception. Secondly, these consistent positive affirmations, they can actually start to kind of rewire neural pathways in the brain. When you hear you are capable over and over, especially from someone you respect, like a teacher, it begins to overwrite maybe older negative self-beliefs. It encourages what they call a growth mindset. So the students weren't just hearing words passively, they were internalizing a new positive self-identity. And that then naturally showed up in how they behaved, how they engaged. It really shows how external words can genuinely shape our internal realities.
That's such a powerful example of speaking life into others, transforming a whole classroom. But this power works just as profoundly, maybe even more so, internally, within ourselves. Think about that really personal story. The young woman battling severe depression. She started this practice, recording daily voice memos of what she called God's promises, reading scriptures aloud to herself. And what's really striking is she admitted she didn't even believe them at first. The words probably felt hollow, maybe distant, maybe even ironic given what she was going through. But she kept doing it. Day after day.
Right. And that persistence, that courageous act of speaking truth, even when it felt completely untrue, it led to a genuinely transformative impact. Hearing those foundational truths in her own voice again and again, slowly, surely, it started to shift not just how she thought, but how she spoke to herself internally. This just demonstrates the profound, often really underestimated potential of self-talk and the power of aligning our internal words with what we hold to be truth, especially for deep personal healing, for strength. It vividly shows how speaking life isn't just for others. It profoundly transforms the speaker's own thoughts, emotions, their spirit. And it raises a really important question for all of us, doesn't it? What profound shifts might happen in our own lives if we intentionally spoke truth and encouragement into our own inner world, especially when we're struggling to believe it.
So it wasn't just what she was saying in those recordings, but the actual act of saying it aloud to herself, repeatedly. That seemed to be the key.
Exactly. There's something, performative about speaking. When you articulate something, even just to yourself, it engages a different part of your brain than just thinking it. The physical act of voicing a truth, of hearing your own voice give it form, it reinforces it somehow. Repetition helps solidify it into belief. For someone fighting depression, maybe caught in that cycle of negative self-talk, this deliberate counterstory, even if disbelieved at first, is a powerful act of taking control. It's like building a new mental muscle, you know?
Yeah.
It's a commitment to shaping a new internal landscape, laying down new pathways for thought, and eventually allowing those truths to really permeate and transform the inner spirit.
Beyond these really personal transformations, we also see this undeniable power of words shaping, well, collective realities, guiding big societal shifts, even forging connections during really tough conflicts. Just to think about history, right? The impact of powerful rhetoric. Figures throughout time, leaders, activists, they didn't just share information. They used words to ignite movements, shift national thinking, literally reshape societies. Their language was a deliberate act of shaping destiny.
Absolutely. And consider frameworks like nonviolent communication, NVC, developed by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. This approach carefully details how specific language choices, focusing on observations, feelings, needs, requests, instead of judgments, blame, or demands, can profoundly de-escalate conflict. It helps build bridges even in really tense situations. It shows the power isn't just in big speeches. It's in the precision, the intention of our everyday language, especially when we disagree. Or think broader. Think about the slogans that define movements or eras. They're short, potent verbal seeds, aren't they? Once they're planted in the collective mind, they can grow into powerful social forces, inspire millions to act. It really shows how words don't just impact individuals. They can literally reconfigure the social and political landscape.
All these examples, the classroom transformation, the quiet inner battle, the reshaping of societies, they consistently bring us back to the same core message, don't they? The immense importance of moving from reactive speech, often unconscious speech, to intentional, conscious communication. It's a profound call, really. A call to shift how we approach our daily interactions, in even our inner dialogue.
And the practical implications of actually making that shift, they're huge. For our own well-being and for the health of our relationships, choosing words purposefully rather than just letting them tumble out impulsively, it's absolutely essential for personal growth and for cultivating healthier, more meaningful connections with others. When we align our words with, say, a heart of grace, of healing, of strength, they serve a constructive purpose. Not just for others, but for ourselves too. Our intentional words have this amazing power. They can counteract negativity, break cycles of harm, and consistently foster encouragement. Positive momentum. In every part of our lives, it's an ongoing discipline, of course, a daily choice, but it's one with truly transformative potential.
So as we've kind of explored today, there's this profound, undeniable power held within our words. They are far more than just sounds passing by, more than just vibrations in the air. They are potent forces that actively shape realities, both internal and external. What we choose to say and how we choose to say it, it really, truly matters.
Yeah. And this understanding, this picture of words as seeds, it really should profoundly influence our daily communication choices. It's an invitation, maybe even a call to be deliberate in every word, every phrase, every affirmation we speak. If we commit to this conscious practice, choosing our words with wisdom, with intention, maybe with love, we can sow seeds of grace and healing and strength, and we can truly watch the magnificent transformative harvest that grows from that intentional effort.
So as you go forward from this moment, maybe just ask yourself once more, where do your words need to shift from reaction to intention, from criticism to encouragement?